Hi there. Thanks for everybody for hanging out tonight. I really appreciate everybody being present and the opportunity to share with you. So my name's Joe. I'm an alcoholic addict, um, and I'm originally from the Pacific Northwest. Um, I'd say that kind of my journey into addiction started fairly early with some family stuff that ended up being kind of defining my reasons for wanting to escape and use and all of that good stuff. Um, I was born to I'd say maybe a lower middle class family. Um, my parents are great people. They tried really hard and provided for us as best as they could. They're very loving parents, very supportive. When I was 5, I had a little brother who passed away. Um, and from what I'm told, that was there's a kind of a before he had passed away and then an after, as far as my temperament was and how I interacted with the world. Um, which at the time I didn't really understand a whole lot about it other than, um, that big scary things can happen for not really a real clear reason, and that would be something that I still deal with today. This kind of sense of impending doom um, has always been kind of lurking, and yeah, I can see where it started. But so I think that was the first kind of contributing factor to me wanting to escape my feelings and all of that. When I was 10, my folks split, um, and I'd say I kind of started to withdraw a little bit socially from that point. Throughout school and into high school, I was a really good student. I did really well in school. Luckily, I think that I found a sense of control in being able to control an identity, being able to study and do well in school and get the recognition for that. Um, but all through school and even I'd say kind of starting at about age 10, I started feeling a definite kind of otherness. Um, I'd say a lot of my childhood um, was marked with a lot of loneliness and a lot of like physically being alone as well. Um, I think not that I had, my parents were definitely attentive. They were never neglectful, but I would say that overall I just spent a lot of time alone. Um, so I've always kind of had a bit of this outsider thing going on, um, that yeah, that I guess I've always kind of struggled with feeling a part of, and of course that contributes to the whole wanting to escape my feelings and why later on drinking made so much sense for me because it really combated a lot of that outsider feeling, loosened me up to where I could actually kind of operate a little bit more normally with my peers and everybody else. But so so at age 10, that's the first time that I had drank. Um, my friends and we would sneak booze from their parents whenever we could. I mean, it really wasn't that often, um, but just kind of the classic thing happened with to me with the whole, the first time that I tried drinking, I really found the thing that was that kind of unlocked all the secrets of how to deal with life, and this is what it meant to be a part of, and this is life without worries and all of that. But I didn't really start picking up any sort of habit until uh, until I was 13, and it wasn't with drinking, it was actually with aerosols. A friend of a friend of mine's older brother had turned us on to to um, to aerosols, to air fresheners in particular, and showed us how you could huff them and you could get high. And so that was kind of even more of a godsend because it was something that I could easily get my hands on. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was innocuous enough to where I could just get some, go to my bedroom, and do my thing, escape from the world, and had all the feelings that I had. But that was really where I'd say, although I although I drank before that point, I'd say it was there that the real strong, like, that's where kind of the addict was born, because what I was able to do was, I was able to rope other friends into it. Um, and before too long, I had a small network of people, friends that I could go, and I'd have, a using buddy every night of the week, um, which I was stoked on at the time because that meant that I could be out of my mind every night of the week, and not tire a friend out or whatever. And I did that for the every night of the week thing. Probably was only like maybe for a summer or so, maybe a half a year, but the whole time of like habitually at least a couple of times a week, huffing thing, that was a couple of years. That was into my early high school years. During that, an older friend, I always hung out with older kids. Um, I had met another friend who was down to try all sorts of different stuff, and we actually used to use this website called Erowid.com, and it was, I don't know if it's still around, but it was like this. It was awesome if you were, you know, trying to figure out all the different ways that you could get high. And it was like this online. It was a website that was a collection of all of these different drugs, legal and otherwise, over the counter, um, different plants, just basically anything that had the propensity to get one high. And I had a friend who, him and I would spend hours on that site trying to figure out all the different things that we could get our hands on as kids in a small town. Because we didn't really have, my small town definitely saw a huge epidemic of meth, and um, I'm sure by now fentanyl's hit there. Um, but at the time, I mean, we were kids. I was like 15 and younger, and there was no way that we were going to get our hands on anything really fun. So we relied on this website to find all sorts of different stuff that we could do. And we did a bunch of, just a bunch of experimenting with different, like, cough medicines. And probably the most interesting thing was nutmeg. If you take enough nutmeg, you can have a trip on it, and it's terrible. It's not. I would not recommend it. I don't recommend any of it, but that was not fun. But anyways, so this was all to say, like, all throughout high school, um, I would definitely do whatever whatever I could get my hands on. All the while, I still managed to do well in school and graduate in the upper part of my class. Um, after high school, I started to get into booze a lot more, and I'd met uh, one of my best friends ever, this fella named Zach, and him and I would party quite a bit, and we um, got into that was kind of the during the Oxy boom, kind of early 2000s. Um, so we do mainly a lot of drinking and a little bit of whatever pills would be around. Um, and then and then um, Zach, who is my best friend, I get he wasn't doing so well, and I knew that he had gotten mixed up in harder drugs, but it wasn't ever when he was around with me. It was more when he lived out of state part of the time, and one of the times I knew he wasn't doing so well. We hadn't been talking a whole lot, and I'm sitting at the tattoo shop. I'd started tattooing at this point, a little out of high school, and I get a call from his girlfriend, and from what I understood, she hadn't even called the you know paramedics yet, emergency services yet. She was all distraught. She's like, Zach is blue, he's not breathing, and I think something happened and this and that. So she, of course, he had passed away. He was, I don't know what he was on. I think that he was on methadone, I think. And from what I understand about it, I don't think that it was, I think that he just obviously somehow took too much, but he wasn't necessarily like really trying to go out or anything. But that him passing away actually did straighten me up for a little bit, and I that was kind of marked the end for a long, long time with doing much else than drinking. Um, so let's see, that would be a little bit out of high school. Um, so after that, um, I got started my career tattooing. I also started touring with music. Um, and really on the use side, I mean, I was definitely an every night drinker, I should say. This was back when, before I'd gotten into really any sort of like day drinking. I mean, it really was kind of an after work sort of thing, but it was definitely every day. And yeah, I started doing music. I got hired out. Uh, Through a couple of connections, I ended up landing with a couple of touring acts and was able to, over the following like 8 years, I got to do a bunch of touring with music, and that was really cool. I got to see a bunch of really cool things and go to Brazil and Europe and the lower 48 a bunch of times over and meet a bunch of amazing people and just be a part of something really cool. Um, and everything with that, surprisingly, it wasn't. I mean, there was a party around, but it wasn't. I really wouldn't say, although I was playing every night, and drinking in bars and partying, it wasn't. There's definitely a problem there, but funny enough, it was actually one of the most like functional times, um, for me. And but you know, I guess with enough time and enough exposure and enough kind of same night, same deal, it can't be a party if it's happening every night. It just kind of starts to get old, and it did. And it just kind of happened to coincide with I went to get out of the band. I was just mentally, I was just rotting away, because even though I'd found um, kind of this scene and these other things to be a part of and ways to express myself, I still to this day kind of hold this other apartness going on. Um, I felt it shake a little bit since I've entered recovery and I've been able to be a part of groups like this. But even like back then, especially, I was really starting to just drift away from everybody, and the touring thing just wasn't super fun. I just wanted to kind of escape my feelings and but sit in one place and do it. And so I did end up quitting the band because we got news that we were having my son, and so it worked out really nicely, and I was really excited to be a dad, and I mean terrified, but really was excited for that, and so I stopped touring, and settled down to do the family life, and unfortunately, and this is something that really bothers me a lot with you know with I guess my whole story is that that's when it I definitely my relationship to all of this to escaping and to drinking and to everything um, really kind of changed because it's when I could really start to notice that I would really use it as medicating. You know, I think before it was kind of still on this fun kind of thing, or I could see where I would drink to kind of escape what I was feeling. But now it was really I was really confronted with a lot of fear and a lot of confusion around being a dad, and and it bothered me that it was like that. Um, I think for the most part, I've been able to kind of learn my way through things fairly quickly. Um, and but when it came to fatherhood, it's just I can't read my way through it kind of thing. It's something that was just really hard, and it hurt me. Well, it still hurts me when I stumble at it, but it hurt me a lot, and it kind of what I started to really be really aware of was that I think that we model our worlds and our paths forward after what we were taught, and this isn't to say that my parents didn't teach me well or weren't good parents. It's nothing like that at all. But kind of going back to earlier, I think I did have a lot of alone time and a lot of I think that I didn't really understand how to express myself super well, as especially as a kid, and especially after losing my brother and kind of climbing up. And I think somewhere in that mix, I think I was just kind of left alone, and I didn't really know how to articulate a lot of needs. Um, so being a father myself, I think that I didn't learn certain skills, Um, and it was painful to kind of bump up against that reality. Um, so yeah, but I mean, this is obviously my son is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm so privileged and happy to be given the opportunity to be his dad. Um, but so over after I quit touring and started to stay put and do the family thing, um, that's when just kind of slowly over the following maybe about 5 or 6 years, the drinking just started to really take over everything, and it got to where like lines were being crossed a lot more rapidly, um, and then the shame behind crossing those lines, it was really it really ramped up, and everything was compounding everything else. Started drinking earlier in the day. Um, I'd started dumping work, which was something that never really happened. I always prided myself on being really hardworking and really steadfast, and once those things started to kind of erode away, uh, I just kind of I really started adopting this really kind of I don't care, whatever, everything was bound to leave anyways, kind of going back to that impending doom sort of thing. Because I, my brother had passed, a couple family members had passed. I had another brother who had commit suicide. I had my friend Zach who passed away. I had a bunch of people who I knew through the band, either passed by suicide or overdose. Um, just about a year ago, I had another close friend. He passed from suicide. Um, you know, I had very, very close family members get roped in, and they're still active in addiction. Like they've been homeless and really strained and bad relationships because of it. And I mean, that's all to say that when the hope kind of starts drying up for me, it's my mind really easily quickly goes into like, well, fuck it, like. um, but anyways, so you know that's the type of thinking and pattern that I was slipping more and more into, and kind of fast forwarding up into the end right before this this term of sobriety, which I'm at a little over a year now. But for the last about year, maybe into a year and a half of it, it was definitely drinking every day, drinking as early as I could, dumping a lot of work so I specifically could drink, incurring a bunch of debt because of all of it, being super unsafe on vehicles and just, I mean, just the whole nine, and just up to crazy amounts of mainly liquor, um, and drinking by price. I didn't really drink by taste anymore. It's all by price and ease of hiding, and drinking to the point to where every time that I would try to quit, even for, I'd hit maybe about that 24, 48 hour mark, I'd start getting really, really sick, really, you know, just just all of it, just the shakes and the heart palpitations, and really honestly thinking I was going to die, and then having to drink to calm it down, and then now I'm back to where I was at and all that. And it finally came to a head when I actually, so right at the tail end of me drinking, I was drunk, and I tried to kill myself, and fortunately it didn't work, and 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 I think it was, obviously it was from a place of a lot of pain, and I think it was just a lot of confusion, and I was out of my mind, and which luckily probably saved me. but but it was that, I had done that, and then so within a few days of that I tried to stop on my own again, because I actually have tapered off a few times, um, tapered off my drinking to where I could quit in the past. In the past, since my son has been born, I've had a few kind of longer stretches, a couple months here or there, to where I would be dry. Um, but I tapered down before, and after that had happened, I was in the midst of tapering down, and I was just going through the nights of not being able to drink as much as I wanted, because I was actually kind of trying to quit, but also going through all of the physical withdrawal and the psychological, the terrible panic attacks. That I was just in this hell. I knew that I still had a few days in front of me of trying to get to 0. And finally, I had a moment, probably the first time that I can at least remember, to why I actively came to a point of surrender. And you know, I told my wife that that I needed help, and of course she was painfully aware of this. And yeah, I just decided, no, I don't. I mean, and I'm very lucky to have the people in my life that I do, have the patience that they do, and the grace that they've given me. Um, uh, but so yeah, said I needed help. I knew that I had to get at least into detox first, before anything else could happen. So I drove myself to the hospital at like 4 in the morning. I legitimately thought I was having a heart attack on the way in. And I got there, my blood pressure was like, it was through the roof. And it was fucking awful. But I made it, and I got into detox, and I finally felt a true sense of relief when I was in there. I finally felt, okay, I'm actually going to tackle this thing. And the biggest part about it was that surrender, was finally like admitting to myself, although I knew that I couldn't keep it going, and I knew that it was out of control, and this and that, but I also finally knew for the first time that like I couldn't do it myself. I had to let go. I just had to let go of this. I was way too attached and too trying to figure it out myself, and I needed help. So that's what I did, and got through that. And then the first so I'd been to AA before, and I'd actually been to online groups before, years before. I tried to get sober like right after my son was born, and it was awful because I fucking couldn't figure it out for the next 6 years. So it was just, it was like a head full of recovery and a belly full of booze type of thing, and it was awful. It was awful. But after I got out of detox, I started hitting online groups again. And the first group that I the first group that I felt kinship in and felt a sense of rapport in was the Satanic Temple. Has an official campaign that they back called Sober Faction, and it's their recovery program, and it has its own it has its own kind of analogs to steps, and it has a whole program around it, and groups around it, and they're still going on today. And I started attending that, and then attending it in earnest and being open about it and starting to work the rituals and be a part of and share. And that was the most important thing in recovery to happen to me. Wasn't really the learning about the psychological stuff and the intellectualizing of it. It was going, being open to suggestion, and actually applying myself, and taking some action, and moving through discomfort, and opening my mouth when I didn't want to, and letting people in when I didn't want to, and being able to find ways that I could feel vulnerable, and to get vulnerable, and then get through it and realize on the other side of it that, like, wow, this is something that I can do. This is what help looks like. This is how the whole thing works. And from there, so from the Sober Faction group, they had a bit of a shake up there, so I started looking for other things. I'd been listening to Dopey at that point for years. I used to drink and listen to all sorts of recovery podcasts, and Dopey was one of them. And yeah, it just clicked one day to check out their online meetings. So I did, and that's where I met Lauren. Was one of the first people that I met in there, and everybody was super welcoming on that side. And from there went quickly in to go into their meetings all day, every day, and that's where I met Des as well. And well, actually, I met a lot of you from there, and then carried over to here. But um, but yeah, and just most importantly, it was that sense of rapport and being able to learn about other recovery modes. And I ended up getting into Dharma, and that's kind of the program that I work now. And being able to get into service has been extremely helpful. It keeps me kind of recovery topics and stuff kind of front of mind, and being able to speak with people and hold space and all of that. Um, I mean, it helps me immensely. It's such an amazing opportunity to be able to just sit in a space, with other people who understand it, and yeah, and yeah, I was really again super fortunate to see the beginnings of this group here, and I thought it was so cool when Lauren Des reached out to me, and I learned about what they were looking to do, and it's so cool to see it. However much longer later, and it's a an institution into itself, and it's cool. It's a really cool thing to see, and yeah, I think that's about it. I really appreciate the everybody giving me their time, and yeah, thank you.